this is Neena Perez at Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to give you resources, tools, and tips, and to discuss life topics, hopefully to challenge and transform your thinking. So today I have an amazing guest here with me, and her name is Miosotys Santiago, and she is the CEO of Exemplify-to-Edify LLC. And it's a women's organization that not only instills hope in broken women, but empowers women to overcome whatever situation that they may be in. Today will be kind of a happy conversation, but something that I think is important. So Miosotys is a survivor of many hard-hitting life and challenges in her life, and that is to say the least. So we're going to go ahead and touch into some of these things, and I wanted to welcome Miosotys here with me today. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank
you for
How are
inviting
you?
me. I'm good.
Good. So I always put everybody in the hot seat, so you're in the hot seat right now. And I just want you to let our viewers know a little bit about you and who you are.
So my name is Miosotys Santiago, and I am a 9/11 survivor. I'm a survivor of a lot of circumstances that women and young women go through in life. I'm also a mother of 3, grandmother of 4, a wife.
Oh, nice.
And I'm just a woman out here on a mission.
Yeah.
You know, I've been given an assignment, and the fire in me has just been ignited, and I'm
Right.
just on a mission to try to reach out to the youth and the young girls out here today.
That's awesome. Now, are you from around here, or?
I live in Groton,
Okay.
Connecticut.
All right.
I work in New London. I'm originally from New York, a native New Yorker.
Yeah, I can hear it.
And it's for some reason the accent just hasn't left me.
Yeah, because New York is in you.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's where my heart is.
Yeah. So you lived in New York. You were born and raised in New York? Or?
I was born and raised in
Oh,
New
okay.
York until the age of 9. I moved to Massachusetts, and then from there went to Miami. I spent most of my teenage days in Miami
Okay.
until I was 21, then back to New York.
Oh, right.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's a big difference between New York and Groton, Connecticut.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
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 It's probably super quiet out there.
Well, I haven't been able to stay out of New York. I'm in
Yeah.
New York at
Also,
least
you're
once
there
a
all the
month.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
For the
right?
last almost 20 years, yes.
How is it being a grandma?
Oh, my, I love it.
Yeah.
The birth of my grandson truly showed me, that's when I opened up my eyes and realized that it's not about me anymore.
Right.
You know, it wasn't about my children anymore. It's about an extension of me, my grandchildren.
Right.
That pure love. It was a different type of love.
It is.
It's just a stronger love. Not that you don't love your children
Of
enough,
course.
but grandchildren, it's a love
you
where
grand.
you want to, yes.
It makes you grand. You went from mother to grandmother,
Grandmother,
right? Yeah.
yes. Now I
get
have
it.
to, represent myself well.
Yeah.
Because I'm a grandmother now, and
Yeah.
I can't do certain things. But my grandchildren bring me joy. They bring me life. I love speaking about them, showing their pictures. And everything that I'm doing now, it's even more purposeful because I want to make a difference in this place for
Right.
them.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to leave my legacy for my grandchildren.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
So they gave me purpose to
yeah,
really pursue
they sure
this.
do, right? And then you think about if we are blessed enough to be here long enough to see our great-grandchildren, what a blessing that would be, huh?
Yes, yes.
'Cause then that makes you great.
Yes.
It makes you great.
Yes.
It's awesome.
I'm going to tell my dad that and my mom.
That's awesome. Have you, so I know you've been a victim of a lot of things, and not to call you a victim, right? I'm not trying to put you in a victim category, but you were victimized, right? And so there's a lot of important life lessons I think we can learn from your story. You have a very powerful story. You have a lot of things you've overcome and gone through. And so I wanted our audience to kind of know that about you, and also what you're doing to transform all of that, because people don't have to stay stuck where they are, right? It's like you said, that there's a lot of our young ladies nowadays that are going through these things. And so I think that this kind of show is super important for those young ladies who are going to be viewing this, you know, to know that there is an end to that, and that there is new beginnings, right? There's something that can come out of the pain. Right?
Correct.
So I wanted you to share some of your experiences, because I know that you've gone through quite a few things. To mention a few, you know, you were molested as a child, raped, you have gone through teen suicide, or wanting to attempt teen suicide, teen pregnancy, domestic violence. I mean, that's just to name a few, right? And so I wanted you to kind of break some of those down for us if you are willing, and kind of share with us those experiences, you know, how you know, what you went through, the ages, if you want to share, you know, that kind of stuff. So
where do I begin?
so let's start with the beginning, right? Let's start as a child, the child molestation, right? We could start there.
So that happened when I was under 10.
Right.
And now that I'm older and I totally understand how easy it is for a family member to take advantage of a girl, especially a little girl. You know, when you have a mother who's, you know, going through something and know she has to work and you need to find babysitters, so you bring them to a family's houses. So in my circumstance, it was me going over a certain family member's house, and the male would play little games with us, and for some reason he always would find me.
Right.
So to me, after a while, I really didn't understand what it was, but when I started feeling that fear every time that game started, because I know he would find me, that's when I knew something was wrong, because his finding me turned into tickling me and, you know, touching places that he shouldn't have touched.
Right.
So that started from there. And then growing up, you know, back then, we were introduced to so much.
That's so true. I was just going to say that.
I can't hide it. We were introduced to so much. Like, I had older uncles who used to, you know, have magazines laying around, and us as kids, we would take the magazines and sneak downstairs and open them.
Right.
So right away at an early age, we were introduced to nudity and women nude, and, you know, looking at them confident being nude. And so I was introduced to that early. And then not having a father around was a big thing for me. I was a daddy's girl. Right. And I always searched for love in all the wrong places. Unfortunately, it started young. As a young girl, I just wanted a man's love.
Right.
And how else to get it but to look for it in a man.
Right.
So at 13 years old, I decided to have a relationship. I lied to the man and told him I was older. He lied to me as well. I found out later. And I was in that relationship for a while until an opportunity presented itself, and I invited him over. We were alone. I was 13. You know, my mind was still pure and just wanting to watch TV and hang out for the night. But immediately after him coming, it basically turned into exactly, you know, what it was. He wasn't coming over to watch television. He had other intentions. And he eventually ended up forcing me and raping me, and he left me there. That's where I lost myself a little, my worth, and I was very embarrassed and ashamed.
Yeah.
And that at that time, when I was 13, I didn't know how I would tell my mother, because number one, I shouldn't have never had a man in the house.
Right.
And
so
I was
you already
very
took blame.
Correct. I already blamed myself for everything.
Yeah.
And I was so afraid of what my parents were gonna do that I decided to take my life and make sure I just take it into my own hands. And I planned the day, and I left letters to my siblings, to my parents. I left them all my radios, my CD play, my tape record back then. And I just was very organized with saying goodbye.
Right.
I wanted them to know it wasn't their fault. I took full responsibility. I always have. But I also am the type that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Right.
So I planned all this out, and the day came, I couldn't back out. I just couldn't.
Right.
It took a lot of time and energy to even go through all of that, write letters and leave every little item that I owned to certain individuals. My mind was set to do it, and I picked the day. And that night, I waited until my mother went to sleep. My mother worked 2 jobs, so at the time, she was on sleeping pills. She also had other problems. I did see the medicine cabinet was full of meds, so I decided that's how I was gonna do it. So I picked the day, the time, and I waited till everyone went to sleep, and I tiptoed in the bathroom. I already had my cup of water laying on the side of the bed. And I went in the bathroom, and I opened up the medicine cabinet, and I took every medicine.
Wow.
Every bottle. I popped it in my mouth. There were times where I wanted to throw up, but I just swallowed it. After everything was gone, I put the tops back on, lined everything up nice and neat so no one would know anything. And I went back and laid in my bed, and I just laid there. Till I started feeling the symptoms of something's not right.
Right.
But I just laid there. I refused to yell or tell anyone what I did. That would have even made it worse.
Right.
So eventually I just passed out. And from what my sister tells me, when she woke up in the morning for us to get ready for school, I was on the floor foaming out of the mouth.
Wow.
So I was basically almost gone. They had to call EMTs. From the EMTs, my blood pressure, everything was low. My heart stopped 3 times. They transferred me to Boston Memorial Hospital. And in the process from there to the hospital is where I went somewhere else. And that's where I believe was my first experience with God. Mm-hmm. I seen the light. I felt the peace. I heard a voice telling me, it is not your time. I was telling the voice, I don't want to go back. I mean, at 13, I was living in a house of chaos,
Right.
No structure, broken, a divorce. But I went to a place where that peace was so overwhelming that I just didn't want to go back. So the voice just told me, it is not your time. It is not your time. And I felt myself falling back, and I just felt my body lift up. And that's when they hit me with the defibrillator one last time. They brought me back. My heart stopped a total of 3 times.
Wow.
And that was my first experience with God. And ever since then, I made a vow to him that whatever he wants me to do, I'm going to do.
Wow. That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You said a lot of important things that I'd like to touch a little bit on. One of them was, the fact that you took the blame on for yourself. So I think a lot of young girls go through this experience where if they're dating someone, it's almost like it's their fault when it happens. And I want to make clear that it is not their fault. When you say no, no is no.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter if you're dating a month or 12 years. I don't care. No is no.
Yes.
And I say that because that resonated with me, because when I was younger, my son's father, after I had my son, beat and raped me also. And I just remember feeling like, oh, well, he's my son's father, it's just, you kind of deal with it. And that damaged me too. And
Yeah.
I just, that's so important what you said, because I think more girls go through that than we think, where they have been raped by a boyfriend they've been dating, or somebody they've been seeing, or somebody they had a crush on. And then now they take on full responsibility for that. Yeah. It is not your fault. It is not your fault.
No.
No is no.
No.
No is no.
And when they feel that fear, go with your gut instinct.
Yeah.
Right away, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
But I already was in the situation where
Right.
he was stronger than me.
Right.
And he manipulated me and just put me in a position where I really couldn't move.
Right.
But it was more the fear. What he
Yeah.
verbalized to me is what had me frozen.
Right,
I could have bit him. I could have punched him. I could have tried to get away.
Right.
But looking at his face and him verbalizing what he'll do, and just seeing in his eyes somebody else, I froze.
Yeah.
And I just submitted to that
And then that's
situation.
sometimes a survival tactic,
It's a
right?
survival move.
Yeah, it's a survival move.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that too, where you just literally freeze. And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? I think it's just you have to be careful not to beat yourself up later too and say, oh, I could have bit him, hit him, punched him, I could have threw something at him. The truth of the matter is, no, you did what you had to do to survive.
Correct.
And if that was what you did right there to survive, then you survived it. So, and that's another thing we can't be doing even as adults, right? Is and I'm talking to all women out there. You cannot go back and keep beating yourself up for something you shoulda, coulda done, right? You have to say, okay, that's what happened. Let's move from here.
But
what do we do
also-
to heal from that?
Also, what he also did is I still went to school.
Right.
I used to see him on the way home.
Right.
So he still slowly was still talking to me.
Right.
Making sure that,
You haven't
making
said
me
anything.
feel like what he did was right.
Right.
He manipulated my mind into believing that what he did was right and not to tell anybody.
Right.
So they get very manipulative.
Yeah.
And just go with your gut.
Yeah.
You have to tell someone.
Yeah.
If it was wrong, it was wrong.
Right.
And they use a lot of mind games, especially on the young girls
Yeah.
today. And if the girl was not being raised at home without a father, they didn't get the opportunity to grow up with that male figure teaching them the way a man should treat a woman.
Yep.
You know, they usually see it on TV, and most of the time on television, the man is disrespecting the woman.
Right.
There's a lot of disrespect in social media,
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
music, and every TV
Advertisements,
show.
yeah.
So
Yep.
they're already learning from television what to expect in a relationship.
Right.
And right now, I feel that it's normal. It's a normal thing now to get hit.
Yeah.
It's a normal thing to say no when you don't want to have sex, but
Right.
he wants to, so he takes it.
Right.
And it's just a generation of women not knowing what to settle for anymore, because it's so normal. And
Yeah.
they're very desensitized to what they deserve and what they should expect from any relationship.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's what's going on today, and that's why I feel so strongly about talking about what I went through, because back then we didn't have it like that.
You didn't talk to anybody about that.
No.
That was secret business.
Exactly.
And the thing is like you were also already kind of in that place of damage and hurt, because you were already molested before you were even 10 years old, right? So this just compiled that, right? It just compiled it in the hurting area. I don't want to talk for you, but I'm assuming that that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing I want to touch on, which I thought was important, that you said that once I made the decision that I wanted to commit suicide, I had to go through with it. No, you didn't, right? So the reason I say that is because I think a lot of times we as women, or even just children, right, these young kids that are just taking their lives, think that they have to go through with it, and you do not
Yes.
have to go through with it. That
No.
is not a promise you have to keep. That is not a vow you have to keep. Absolutely not. You don't have to, and you shouldn't, you know. So I think that I when I read stories online about, like this thing that was online about this young girl who was making her boyfriend kill himself, and she's like, you promised, you
Yes.
promised. He's like, but I don't want to. You promised, but I don't want to. My family, I don't care. You promised. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, first of all, that was really cruel of her. But secondly, like, he actually felt like, well, I promised. And then he did it.
He did
you
it.
know? And it just made me so sad, because I think that we make vows. First of all, we should not be making these kind of vows. And then if we do, break them.
Yes.
These are not the vows you need to keep.
Yes.
You know? And I think, there's so many things that I said when I was a kid that I'm now as an adult, like, that was really stupid to say. But,
Like, I went to the high school. I just spoke at the New Haven High School a few weeks ago, and I spoke directly to the students. And I wanted to leave the message to them as students that you don't owe anyone anything right now in this. The only persons who you owe anything to are your parents, who's trying to guide you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
You owe yourself everything. Do not allow anybody, your friends, to influence you to do anything you don't want to do. I was telling the women, do not allow another woman to make you feel less than because your hair doesn't look like hers, or your body doesn't look like hers, or your nose. We are all born individual, and we're all having individual look for a reason, because we each are here for a purpose.
Right.
And with this generation, they're so used to bullying each other that they're creating actually weaknesses within one another. It's just so hard to find yourself, to find your place on earth.
Yeah.
Like I tell my grandchildren already, this world is a cruel world. And I tell them as siblings, make sure you guys love each other and take care of one another, and you don't let anyone take advantage of each other, because you guys are all you got. But at the same time, you have to go out into the world and you also embrace other people. If you see someone going through something, don't follow the crowd.
Right.
All they do is followers. There's not enough leaders. Don't follow what they're doing. Be that different person. Be that difference. And be outside the box. Step outside the box and go to that person and see what they're going through.
Yeah.
Everybody needs tender love and attention. I mean, there's just so much lack of love and attention for these kids, because they're left here to figure it out.
So what do you think then guided you through those times? What was that got you through it, right? Because those were hard things you went through, right? I mean, and even like harder than most of us. Like, you know, your heart stopping 3 times, all that kind of stuff. That's some serious stuff going on there, right? So, and I don't know about you, but I know for me, we in my family never did counseling. It's not like we did any of that
Me
stuff,
either.
right? You just kind of, you
the
sucked
flow.
it up and you kept it moving. That's just how it was, right? So how then did you like force yourself to wake up the next day and to keep moving? Because sometimes kids don't know how to do that either. They don't have the tools for that.
I don't even know where to begin with this one. So I always tell the story that the devil's been trying to kill me since the day I was born.
Right.
The day that I was born, my mother pushed, the doctor turned around, I fell on the floor.
Wow.
My head was crushed.
Wow.
So from the first moment I came into earth, the devil's been trying to kill me.
Right.
I ended up developing meningitis of the brain. My first year of life was in the hospital. From there, I developed asthma. I was the girl in the bubble. I remember being in this bubble because I couldn't even breathe natural air. So it's been one attack after another since birth. So now I've adjusted, and I learned throughout all these experiences to just adjust. Mm-hmm. It's just a coping mechanism. Like, things happen, life goes on. Like, even with death, I've experienced a lot of death after losing my fiance. I realized that within 2 hours, I lost my fiance, my job, my friends, my sense of security in America. I lost everything within 2 hours. But I also realized on the 10-hour walk back home that life goes on. I still had to go home. I had kids to go to. The next day, I had bills to pay. You know, I still had to get up in the morning and go look for him. Life doesn't stop, time doesn't stop. Yeah. And that's just, unfortunately, I've been built this way. But I can tell you one thing, ever since that experience at 13, when I heard that voice, I know that there is a God, and I know that there is someone who loves me because he saved me over and over and over again. So my faith in that higher power, who I know is real, has been literally, he's been everything to me.
No, did you know that power, though, before 13?
No.
Oh, wow.
I just connected with it.
Right.
I just knew he showed himself to me.
Wow.
And from then on, I knew that there's a God, and you can't tell me otherwise. And we were raised Catholic in my whole family, but for some reason, I was never really connected to the Catholic Church because I felt a void. Right. I needed more of a personal relationship rather than just going to church and saying the words and saying it 3 times, and then we go home. I needed something more.
Up until that point, there was no personal connection.
Correct.
But that point pushed you over to a personal,
it was very personal,
living God.
He showed himself to me.
Wow. That's really powerful, Mio.
He showed himself to me, and I believe in him, and it's been my vow. Everywhere I go, I speak about God, and I try to to make you see that he's real. Right. Like, he really is real. And he's been my everything. He's been my backbone since 13 years old, until he finally showed himself to me.
Right, in a very powerful way.
Yes.
Like, we all wish to have that kind of connection. So I want to go to break. So before, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about, you mentioned it already, a little bit of the 911 story and what that was like. And that affected a lot of us, right? But it affected you in a very personal way. And so I really want to talk to you about that, kind of touch on, how you overcame that, what that meant for you, what the losses were, but what have you gained, from that experience. Is that good? Mm-hmm. We do that? Yeah. All right, great. So thank you so much for watching. Don't you go anywhere, because this is just getting started. Come right back.
Joseph Amatuccio.
Paul W. Ambrose.
America is determined to never forget the attacks of September 11th by remembering every life lost.
It feels just like it was yesterday. It always feels like it was yesterday. But every year it gets better. And through the years, you just start feeling at peace with what happened here.
This is the last photo taken of Miosotys Santiago and her fiance.
I worked on the 61st floor. My fiance was on the 93rd. So I was walking through the plaza when the first plane hit. So I was able to make it out. A Port Authority police officer grabbed me. And I stayed on Broadway the whole time. but I watched both towers fall. And I went home and I waited for my fiance to come home like everyone else. I really thought that he was in a burn unit somewhere, but after months of no word, I packed me and the kids up and I left to Connecticut. And in April 2002 is when I got the call. They identified his remains.
For Santiago, it's not about money or justice. She says no court ruling will ever bring back the love of her life.
We've accepted it, and life has gone on. Things have happened. The kids have grown up, and it's gonna be part of us for the rest of our life. This tower, this place.
September 11th, 2001 was the deadliest terror attack on American soil. But it has become a day on which Americans set aside their differences and unite. Kelmany Dukart, TRT World, New York.
Hi and welcome back. This is Neena Perez at Straight Talk, No Sugar Added, and we have been talking to Mio Santiago, and it's just such a good topic. And this is for you women out there, so pay attention. So we are going to start talking now about different topics. One being that Miosotys is a survivor of 911, but also she has gone through other things that I thought we can touch on really quickly before we move on to that. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was domestic violence. And we know that domestic violence is definitely on a rise, and it is quite scary actually, reading the stories that I read and watching all the stuff on social media and the disrespect that goes on to women. And so I thought it would be really important for us to touch on this topic. So Mio, if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk about your surviving domestic violence. Mm-hmm. I'm a survivor as well, so I totally get it, and I mean it when I say survivor, mm-hmm. because domestic violence is something that not only overtakes you physically, but mentally in a very strong way, mm-hmm. and lasts forever almost, mm-hmm. you know. So I wanted you to touch on that, like maybe give us some like red flags or some signs about domestic violence and kind of like how that started, and was he a smooth character, you know, that kind of thing, because I think that people who haven't been through it kind of look at you and go, how did you stay? You know, or why would you take that? And why I would never take that. And I'm like, it doesn't start like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like he says hello and punches you in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not like that. That's
There's
not how
feelings
it starts.
involved.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, in the beginning, he was amazing. He accepted me and my daughters, number one. That's what did it for me.
Yeah.
I just left a previous relationship a year before, and I had 2 daughters. And he accepted my daughters as his own and loved them. And everything was fine until just this one day that I was talking to his nephew, and his nephew was dating my sister. And the whole night we were more focused on each other, where he was walking around because his nephew was so into my sister. I was trying to talk to him, but I never realized that it was bothering him, and he felt disrespected by me paying another man attention. So at the end of the night when everyone left, he asked me, you know, what was that? I said, what was what? He was like, what were you and my nephew talking about all night? I said, we were talking about my sister. He said, well, that disrespected me. People were watching you, paying my nephew all this attention and not me.
His ego got injured.
That was it. So then we started, you know, arguing. I'm like, whatever, you'll get over it, whatever. And then I just was talking, and all of a sudden my body just turned around. He turned me around, and the first punch in my face. And he hit me like a dude. And that shocked me. And then just the look that he gave me when he hovered over me, don't ever do that again. That just put an instant fear in me again, and I was stuck. And the next morning he woke up like nothing. He apologized. I'm so sorry, I'm never gonna do it again. You know I love you. You just made me upset. I'm never gonna do it again. Just
Your fault. Yeah.
Of course, the woman in us, the I love you does it all the time. The I love you did it for me.
Right.
And 1 hit turned into 2 hits, 3 hits, years of him. Now he had a mental hold of me because he hit me the first time. The second time I never left. So now he knew that he could continue doing it, and I wasn't leaving as long as he told me he loved me.
Right.
He knew what my weakness was.
Right.
because I always wanted that fatherly love, that I love you from a man. So, but he was still, I mean, he was a wonderful man. What caused not only the jealousy was he started drinking. So substance got in the way. And when you drink, he started seeing things that weren't really there.
Right.
And that caused a lot of, basically, the downhill of our relationship. But he was a wonderful man, a wonderful father. When I had my daughter, I didn't have to do anything. He did everything, even until then. But when he started noticing me growing and finding myself, and I just got a new job at the World Trade Center, and he noticed a change in me. I was happier and smiling. He didn't like that at all. He noticed something.
So he was wonderful as long as you were submissive or
Yes.
under him.
Yes.
Okay.
Mostly men who abuse women, they want that submissiveness because they're broken.
Right.
They came with the issue. I always thought I was the one with the issue. No, he came with the issue.
Right.
He was already a broken man when I met him. His father used to beat his mother, so he learned it from home. He never really had a good role model at home. So whatever he learned at home, that's how he was with his relationships. I wasn't the only one he hit. He hit
Right.
every woman in every relationship. So it was like a generational curse
Yeah.
that he brought along with him. But like what I tell the women and the young girls today is absolutely not. You do not deserve for any man, unless it's your father, not even him, unless it's a good, to put his hands on you. That is unacceptable. The I love you, unacceptable.
Right.
Because one I love you is going to turn to 10. And little by little, he's going to be breaking you down. And you're going to feel worthless.
Right.
And you're hiding it from your family. And your soul is just empty and there's a void. And you're letting one individual change who you are. Don't give anybody the power to ever come and take away your essence, your beauty, your inner strength. And that's something that I allowed this man to do. And like now that I know better, that will never happen to me again.
Right.
No man will ever be able to make me feel the way that this man made me feel.
Right.
And it was because I was young and I was vulnerable and again looking for love in all the wrong places.
Right, but you also said a lot of key things there, like the fact that he was a wonderful man. Like people are looking at you like, how can he be wonderful and he's doing that? The truth is that they are wonderful. They're like charming and loving and caring and thoughtful, and you're just like, you start to become confused of what is charming and wonderful and what is evil and not good. And then you're almost in this place like, when it's good, it's really good. Is that how you felt? Like when it's good, it's really good.
And being raised in a household myself with my father and my mother fighting all the time, I was already introduced to domestic.
You're used to it. Yeah.
And I was confused because my mother and my father would fight today, and tomorrow they dance in merengue in the living room.
Right.
The next day they fighting. The following day we all going on a family trip like nothing ever happened. So that when that started happening to me, it just for some reason it brought me back into a little girl, and I seen it as okay, this is normal. It's that falling back into your past and what you're used to that usually it affects your thinking process as you're older. So I automatically went back to how my parents lived, and it was normal. So I thought it was normal for him to hit me, and then the next day say he loved me, because every time he hit me, the love yous got even better and grander, and he did different things, and he made me feel even more loved. And okay, this is it. He's not going to do it again. And it got to the point where I didn't even know what I was doing wrong anymore.
Right.
I couldn't.
Right.
The way I spoke, the way I looked at someone walking down the street, I had to cut his meat for him. One thing I want these girls to be aware of, when the red flags, they start requesting things from you that they shouldn't be requesting. I used to have to cut his meat for him in pieces. If I didn't cut his meat or I forgot, he'll throw the food on the floor and tell me to make him a whole new plate. The way I used to dress, if something was a little too tight or he didn't like it, he will demand that I take it off. And I was not allowed to leave unless I took it off. Once you give him the authority to demand, now you have to change what you're wearing and how you dress, how you feel about yourself,
you speak to.
who you speak to.
Yep.
You know,
Where
if
are you
you looked
going?
at a man for 2 seconds too long and gave eye contact, what was that look about? When you start seeing insecurity in them, and they're more focused on what you're doing, that's when it's starting to get dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they're developing an obsession with you,
Right.
and every little thing that you do.
And obsession is not a good thing.
It's not.
Right.
That's when danger is. It's a big warning there.
Yep. I also want to point out that the one time he hits you is too many times.
Exactly.
So one time is too many times. It's already been done. It's done.
It's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I think it's scary for people. I mean, it was scary for me.
It was
you
scary
know?
for me.
It was scary for me, and it was scary because I loved him too. I loved him, right? So it's like I love him, but I remember just crying on my friend's lap, and she's like, "Why are you still doing this?" I was like, "I love him."
Yeah. Well, I just
Now I'm
had
like,
his daughter.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a very, and I had his son. I get it. It's a very tough situation, but you can leave, and it's okay. It's okay. You know.
The other
to put
thing that he
yourself
got me
first.
too with is telling me his past and making me feel
So
sorry
you feel
for
sorry
him.
for him. Yeah.
They use that too. They'll tell you about everything they went through, and now they're making excuses for why they did it. So you can feel sorry for him and forgive him.
Right.
And that's the little game that they're going to play with you over
Right.
and over again. I
So
just
how-
wanted to bring that out
Yeah,
there.
because it's true.
It's
No,
true.
it's true. I mean, what are some of the tools that you use now with all of this that you've learned in life? What are the tools that you're using to edify these women, to teach women?
I try to, first of all, I try to make these young girls know that they don't need to be in a relationship with a man.
Right.
Before 18 even.
Yeah.
You'd have no business in a relationship with a man if you're still living at home.
Right.
Focus on yourself. Learn who you are. Being complete with yourself. You know, love yourself. So when you get to that age that you want to give yourself to someone, you're giving yourself completely, and you're not
Willingly.
giving yourself because you feel forced or because you feel it's
Obligation.
correct by society. It's okay to not have sex until you feel you found the right one. Nowadays, if you haven't had sex, there's something wrong with you. No, that's what society has you feeling. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with knowing your self-worth and holding yourself as long as you can. You know, I tell the women today, these young women, that they don't have to lower their morals and self-respect to try to please a man by dressing half naked, by posting videos on social media, you know, all those dances and the twerking. And that's just, how do you expect a man to respect you when you're not respecting yourself?
Right.
A lot of these young girls don't truly know the meaning of self-worth and self-respect.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to teach these women. Respect yourself. What you do now is going to affect you.
Yeah.
10 years from now.
Yeah.
That little video you posted,
Yeah.
it's going to come out.
Yeah,
And-
and that's,
and-
I think that's the advantage almost that we had growing up, is that our stuff at least didn't land on social media.
Yes.
Now everything lands on social media. People don't even sneeze without taking a picture of it.
It's
you
a
know?
very
So
dangerous thing.
It is.
It's
It
very
does come back
dangerous.
to you too. I don't care what age you are. It will come back to you. It will come
And
back
just
to you.
be cautious of how you think. It's just, we're just dealing with a lost generation. And I tell my adult friends who've given up on this generation, I don't give up on these kids.
Yeah.
You know, they're growing up in a very bad time. They're so confused. There's no love. There's no empathy. They come from broken homes. You know, they're hating on each other. They're fighting one another. I've never seen a generation so angry.
Yeah.
They have a lot to be angry about.
Yeah.
This world is it's an angry world with so much confusion and toxicity. They don't know what's right and wrong anymore.
Right.
And the last thing we need to do as adults is give up on our kids. Our children need us the same way we needed our teachers and our adults. This generation needs us.
Yeah.
And I just want all the adults to come together and just don't give up on these kids.
Yeah.
They
I
all
think
need
every
us.
generation has had their trials, right? I
Yes.
mean, they really have. And so this generation is having theirs, and we should be stepping up.
Correct.
The same way when we were growing up, people should have been stepping up for us, and that's how it should be. And this generation growing up now should be stepping up for the next one. I
Exactly.
mean, that's how we're supposed to roll, right? So I'm glad that you're doing that and that you're trying to give them the tools that they need to just look at themselves in a different lens. That's important. So that's why I wanted you here today, because I know that your organization is focused on women and young girls, and that's
Yes.
a powerful thing. And so I wanted to touch a little bit on overcoming things. And so I know that you are a survivor of the 9/11 attacks. And I know it's been almost like, 18 years now since that has happened. And I remember it like it was yesterday, and I'm sure you do also. And I wanted you to just talk to us a little bit about what that experience was for you. You don't have to go in deep if you don't want to, but I did want to talk about, because that was a life-changing moment, I'm sure, for you, and I wanted to talk about that, if that's okay. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about surviving the World Trade Center. What was that like for you? What was that story? I saw that you had an interview on I think I found it on YouTube, but I wanted you to share it with our people.
So I worked at the World Trade Center, and I met my fiance at the World Trade Center. I worked the visitor's desk, and he was he worked Marshall McLennan for the 93rd floor. So at the time when I first got the job, I was in the relationship with my daughter's father, dealing with the domestic violence.
Okay.
So he, throughout time, was always just interested in me, but I would never pay him any attention because I was in another relationship. But one day he just asked me out to eat. So I said, you know what, let's go. And I can remember every day I would watch this man come downstairs and go to the desk. And I would continue walking. But just for some reason, that one day I looked over at the right moment, he stepped out of the elevators, and at the World Trade Center, the windows were just about 10 stories high. The sun was just shining right through the lobby.
It's like, oh.
Yeah. So when he stepped out of the elevator, and I'm checking in someone, and I just turned over, and he came out of that elevator and stepped into the light, he changed into someone else. He literally just turned into this knight in shining armor right in front of me. Like God showed me, this is your way out.
Right.
So we went on that first date, and we connected so well, and we went, we kept on going to lunch after that. And we just, not that we fell in love, but we just connected. The mental stimulation was very, very good. And he's the one who used to tell me, you don't deserve to be treated like this. You don't deserve to be hit. He told me, I will never take you seriously as long as you're in this relationship.
Wow.
And I was already wanting to leave this one, to go with him. But he was like, I'm never going to take you seriously as long as you're. So it took, it took months. And finally, one day I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to give up on something so good to me to still stay in this situation. So one day I found the strength to go home, and I told my daughter's father, you need to leave. And I think at that moment, because I used to pray, God, please just make this easy for me. I didn't want to die.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I didn't want to die.
That's a scary thing.
For me to ever even have to tell him, I don't want to, you need to leave. That was it.
Okay.
And one day I found it in me to find the strength to tell him, I'm done. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I deserve more. And I want you out of my life. I want you to leave. And for some reason, he's seen the look in my eyes, and he could tell that I was that serious that he packed his stuff and he left.
Oh,
I didn't have to
amen.
fight him.
Thank goodness.
God made it easy again. You watch what you pray for. You be specific too. When you ask for it, it'll come. I asked God, please make this easy for me. Because I knew I was going to end up either fighting him, he was going to try to hit me, maybe he was going to try to kill me. I didn't know. Make this easy for me. And then as easy as God made it for me, he just packed up and left.
Right.
And, me and Andrew remained friends. And then finally, he decided to move in with me, and we started our relationship. It was the most beautifulest relationship I ever had. He treated me like a queen. We never argued. He embraced my daughters. He had a daughter himself. So between my 3 and his, we had 4 daughters. We did everything together, went everywhere together. And on 9/11, the day before on 9/11, his coworker came and asked him to switch shifts because he was expecting a baby. He wanted to go to the sonogram appointment. So Andrew, we would ride the train every day. He didn't want to do it, but because he was a father and he loved his daughter so much, he said, you know what, I'll switch shifts with you. So that morning on 9/11, he woke up and he got ready to go to work and work a 7 to 3 shift where we worked a 9 to 5. So I stood behind. And that morning he left. As I was on the bus heading to the train station, my oldest daughter calls me, "Mommy, get off the bus. Crystal's acting up," my youngest one. My oldest daughter used to bring her to school. So I'm telling her, I can't get off the bus. I'm going to be late. I lived in Queens. I had to take the E train all the way to Chambers Street. So she's like, "Ma, please get off the bus. I don't want to deal with her." In between her trying to get my baby situated, the middle daughter missed the bus. All 3 of them now. I had to go home, all the way back home, get all 3 of the girls to school, get on the bus to Parsons in Jamaica, take the E train all the way to Chambers Street. I'm about 45 minutes late. I'm walking past Century 21. I walked onto the plaza. I opened up my phone to call. I was going to call Andrew to let him know that I'm running late to come downstairs because we would eat breakfast every morning in the plaza. So as I'm dialing the phone, his number, all of a sudden I just heard shoo. I heard a loud noise, and when I looked up, it was a plane, and it just hit the tower that fast.
Wow.
And in that moment, it was just a big explosion. I was already walking in the building, so I automatically ran in the building in Tower 1, and it was just chaos. So me working security, he being up on the 93rd floor, he was a security supervisor, my security instincts kicked in. I'm trying to run in the building. I'm trying to get up to the elevator to see where Andrew was. And a Port Authority police officer, she grabbed me and she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "My fiance's up there. I need to find him. I work, downstairs." She said, "You're not going anywhere. You're coming with me." So she grabbed me by my hand, and that's where you'll see in the Newsweek magazine, someone captured the picture of me and her. We ran across the plaza, and she handed me over to someone on Broadway, and I guess there was a tourist there. He took the picture of me and her running, and that's where I stayed. I stayed on Broadway until the second plane came and hit. I watched people jumping from the towers. I still can hear the noise every time a body hit the floor. It was just constant, just little bombs going off, There was paper flying, debris. I could still hear the flame. A lot of chaos and screaming, but I was frozen there.
Yeah.
And until I called my little sister from the corner. There was a payphone in the corner, and I got through to her. She was like, "Mio, where are you?" I said, "I'm downstairs." I said, "But I don't know where Andrew is. I don't know where Andrew is." She's like, "Get out of there, get out of there." And while I'm on the phone with my sister, as I'm looking up, is when I see the tip of 2 World Trade, the building just cracked.
Yeah.
And I just felt a rumbling. I'm looking down on the floor, and this man just came and ran up, and he grabbed me. He says, "Ma, we gotta run." The last thing crossed my mind that building was falling. And he just grabbed me, and we just started running, and the ground just started shaking, and all of a sudden that big cloud of dust just came, and just all you heard was, whew, that was it. I was hit with something on my back. I fell to the floor. Within seconds, everything just went silent. Everything just went silent. And I was, there for a while before I even thought about getting up. Little by little, I got up, but that first breath of air that I inhaled, I started coughing, so I ended up taking off my shirt and I wrapped it around my face.
Can you believe that was 18 years ago? Like, that's insane. Or it probably feels the same, like it was yesterday to you, right? And so you lost your fiance in that, right? And you had to overcome that, because that's a big fear that I would think that would come with such an experience, right? And, thank God for your daughters not behaving.
Yes,
that day.
I tell them that they saved my life.
They
daughters.
I mean, that's just amazing. And so you have gone through quite a bit since then. It's been 18 years, and now you're at this place that I was reading about when I was looking you up and reading about you, and you are like standing here today, a survivor of all of these amazing big experiences And you've been awarded a lot of things too. Like, I don't know how many, do you have enough wall space for all of your awards?
I ran out of a wall.
I bet you did. You know, because those are big things, but you're also doing big things. Are you trying to really change things for women, for young girls, for just anyone who will listen to some way of changing? And I saw that you have had many awards. I'm going to just spew them out really fast, okay? Because there's a lot of them, so I'm just going to use a couple. Because I don't have that much wall space, okay? So we have Essence Ageless Beauty 2015 Models. That was featured in Ethnic Women's Magazine. You were also an honoree in 2019 Class of Connecticut's 100 Women of Color. Also, Black People Rock honoree out of Bridgeport. You were an honoree of You Are Beautiful Survivor Award in Hartford, the Lady of Flavor Survivor Award, honoree in Windsor. And you do deserve all of these. You are definitely a survivor. But really quick, I wanted to touch, because we're almost out of time, I wanted to touch about, you recently finished a compilation with 22 other authors writing this amazing book, I Am My Story.
Yes.
And so I wanted you to touch on that really quick. Yes, exactly. I'm really excited to read this. This is my copy, y'all. She signed it. It's for me. It's not for y'all. You got to get your own copy. Can they get this on Amazon?
Yes.
Okay,
But I
great.
also have my PayPal link where you can order it straight from me.
Yeah. And so I Am My Story is 22 women just writing about their surviving stories, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
And so you're also a part of Life Changers, and that's part of this, right? That's part of
Correct.
this campaign. And so you have to pick up your copy. It's I Am My Story. It's Our Voices. And Dr. Jackie Evans Phillips is the one that published this book, correct? And so
It's
you
her
can pick this
organization.
up on Amazon. But I also wanted to give you a way to contact Mio.
Or if they want an autographed copy, they can order it straight from me.
Okay, great. And I know that you do a lot of other things. You do teen vision board parties, women empowerment events quarterly in New London. So you're going to have to follow her and go and check her out so that you know when these events are happening. And you can contact her at her Twitter handle, which is at Miosotys Santia, right? 1. So it's MIOSOTYS. SANTIA, the number 1. Or you can email her at exemplifytoedify@gmail.com. So please do reach out to Miosotys and let her know that you would like a copy of this amazing book. I cannot wait to get my hands on it tonight. I'm going to be reading it. And so make sure that you contact her, that you get her to maybe come out and do some vision board parties for some for your group or young ladies that you might want to inspire. Make sure that you check out her quarterly events so that you can attend. I am definitely looking to attend the next one, so
Thank you.
I can't wait. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here,
Thank you.
exposing your heart like this and sharing your stories, and also just giving all of these great red flags for us women out there. So thank you very, very
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Thank
So thank you so much for watching. This is Neena Perez at Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Until next time.